At the very beginning of the week, Mercury enters shadow. And this is the beginning of the pathway that Mercury will eventually retrograde over and walk over for a second time. And then between March 15 and April 7, we go through this journey of revisiting all the things that Mercury is set to show us along the way between now and the 15th of March. Once we get to April 7th, though, and Mercury returns to where Mercury is right now, everything just might look really different. In fact, everything might look a whole lot more wise, a whole lot more loving, a whole lot more in alignment with an awareness of how the universe really has been conspiring on our behalf. And that is because as Mercury enters shadow, does so by meeting the North Node in the sky. And once it is that we get to the first part of April, it will be Mercury that stands still in the sky, hand in hand with the North Node. And for that matter, Venus standing still, and Saturn is going to be there as well. And so all of that is to say, we are in very special times. The nodes are considered nothing less than destiny points. They are powerful in prediction. And when it is the North Node that's activated, new people, places, things, situations have the potential to enter, which represent karmic blessings in a very mundane sense, but they do something else as well. And that is that they pull us forward in a more meta sense towards greater love and greater wisdom. That is the intent of the soul. And when the North Node is activated for our individual journeys or for the collective, it is the soul contracts, the promises our soul made before we even incarnated that wake up and that have the potential to be fulfilled in powerful ways. That is the powerful journey that we are on now, and it'll start subtle and become that much more evident, that much more profound. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of March 2nd, 2025. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. Synchronicity programs have already begun for the month of March. And as we begin this week, you might be able to sneak in there and still get the choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class for these incredible classes. Links below. I am at the Business Center at the hotel in Panama City in transit, and I'm super excited to be here with you. So let's see how it goes. Let's see if we get interrupted. That can be part of the adventure. But if we are, that will be part of exactly what's supposed to happen right now because of this very powerful North Node activation taking place. But it isn't just about the North Node. I mean, that is a huge factor, but it's about everything that's happening around the North Node that makes it that much more special. We now are going to begin this pathway, and as soon as Mercury moves into shadow, we'll immediately move to connect with Neptune in the sky. The thing about the North Node is that sometimes it can be subtle. That's how the nodes work. The South Node is a little more obvious. And so according to the ancients, the soul is traveling a path in this lifetime. And when we look at the planets, they can speak powerfully to our conditioning, what we want, why we want it, how we go about getting it, our perception of our earlier environments and how they shaped us to be who we are today. Well, that's very well rooted in psychological astrology. But a key component of astrology going all the way back, I mean, we see it in traditional and really ancient astrology modalities, is the recognition of the nodes of the moon. And they are key in prediction because when the nodes are activated, it's like stuff happens, events take place, and their time has come. When it is the South Node being activated, it is a doorway closing. It is as if we are moving on, and therefore certain persons, places, things, situations need to exit if we are going to continue on our evolutionary journey going forward. No matter how we feel about it, it is a blessing. It is a part of our alignment with greater love and greater wisdom. And whoever's no longer a part of that, or whatever is no longer a part of that, it exits. Its time has come, and it's a fulfillment of soul contracts and soul promises. However, when it's the North Node, It is what we're moving towards. It is what's new that's coming in that pulls us towards more and towards better. Now, it isn't always evident right away whom or what new has begun, because it can be such a small seed of a moment. And especially right now, with Mercury entering shadow, not only immediately hand in hand with the North Node, but also will on Sunday as we start this week, well, it is going to be Mercury that meets Neptune in the sky as well. And that makes this that much more a powerful time. But it's also a time where things are not clear. Just when we think they are, we actually might be seeing things way too idealistically or pessimistically than they actually deserve. And just when we think we know, oh, this is new, this is the soul contract, this is what's meant to pull me towards greater love and greater wisdom, well, actually, our answers might end up being something very different. And so that's the thing when it comes to the journey of the soul. It has plans of its own. As much as there are times in life that say you can manifest whatever you want and focus in and make it happen. And all of that is very true, especially if we're going through certain transits, like a Jupiter transit, for example. But when it is the nodes as part of the mystery, we don't always know that what's happening is actually really good for us. And that is part of the case now. But with all this attention being paid to the incredible sky we're having this month, it is ultimately April that I think is, on levels of soul, more powerful. And that is because, as big a deal as it is that Mercury is meeting the North Node now, once we get to April and we start moving towards the middle of April, that is when this whole conglomerate takes place that involves the North Node. And collectively and personally, new pathways that are a lot more stable with Saturn, a lot more clear with Mercury, but also a whole lot more loving with Venus are going to start to show up. I always say when the nodes are activated, but especially when the North Node is activated, strive to be open, be out and about, cast your net wide, try to meet as many people as possible, because along the way, you're very likely going to connect with someone where you will look back, sometimes years later, you will look back and realize when it was that the very seed took place that made all the good things, or many of the good things, because there's always all kinds of opportunities to welcome in good things. But really, it was rooted in what took place when an important nodal activation took place. Now, this is true in our own chart, so this is why if you like to look at your own chart, pay attention to how the planets are moving and speaking to that chart. Well, we as astrologers, we really like to look at when it is that planets will conjunct the nodes of the moon. But when it is that it's happening for the collective, it is also karmic. It is also powerful. It is also a time of bold new beginnings with the North Node activated. But again, it's just a beginning. We're at the very early stages. And April, when things really kick into high gear, it'll become more evident. But also, it's as if this doorway, it stays open throughout most of the month of April. And so whatever's happening now might be a bit of a foreshadowing. But what takes place in April is when we really start to see the direction that humanity desires to go and that we individually desire to go as well. But here's another layer to consider. All of this is happening with the North Node in the sign of Pisces. And the energy of Pisces is one of faith. It is one of compassion, but also sacrifice and closures. It's the last sign of the zodiac. It is, by its very nature, an energy that loses the self and merges with everyone and everything, including the divine. And that is a part of this cultivation of faith, a faith that's real, a faith that works, a faith that invites us to actually demonstrate more or demonstrate better. That is part of the exploration that we as a collective have been on, just with Saturn moving through Pisces since March of 2023. But now with the North Node here, it's not just a conscious thing that we're engaging in, but rather it is the soul urge. It's what we collectively and individually desire to know more of, the bliss of the divine. But the very nature of Saturn is not necessarily blissful, right? It is a planet that is honesty, practicality, but sometimes harshly so, making it still incredibly valuable a moment where what we have the potential to manifest is real, but there's this delicate balance at play. And I think with a week like this, with Mercury in particular, it is about awareness. It is about the conversations, the connections we're making with others. But we really are in the midst of manifesting something different, another world, another sense of our connection to each other and also to ourselves as well. Now, that connection to self shows up very strongly when it is that we look at the fact that at the end of the month, Neptune moves into the sign of Aries. But there's a few interesting things about this energy as well. I had an exchange with this lovely person online who's been a friend and fan for many years. Really appreciate those of you who've been with me for a long time. And those of you who are new, everyone, welcome. And the person was freaking out a little bit about this month, was saying, oh my God, all this huge stuff is happening. I can't wait till the month is over. And I said, well, if that's what you're thinking, just wait till April, because it's almost like it is really in April when it's like the universe has a will of its own. And I didn't mean to freak that person out even more, but I found that the reaction itself was really interesting. A lot of this comes down to what is it that we want our relationship with the universe to be. Because somebody who thinks that they are isolated and alone and they're fighting to survive has a very different relationship with the universe than someone who's going to adamantly say that the universe is wise and loving. And everything that's taking place is ultimately part of aligning me with that greater wisdom. And us as human beings can barely glimpse it. Many spiritual traditions talk about the origin story of humanity as being that of us being created out of clay, and then the divine breathed towards us and animated us with its breath. And so that is the origin story of what it is to be human and all of humanity that sprung forward from that moment. And I find this really interesting because to know the breath and to be animated by the breath of the Creator means that you know yourself as creator. It means you breathe the same energy. It is a part of you. I am a huge fan of Lilith, right? I love talking about Lilith, Black Moon Lilith. I've taught about her. I've had a book that's been like 90% done for many years. I got to get that book done, I know. But a part of the origin story of humanity in the Old Testament is that God created Adam and Lilith. He breathed. They came to life, and then God leaves the room and says, I'll leave the two of you to be. And Adam tells Lilith to lie down, and she's like, no. And she's so like icked by him. She's just so repulsed by him that she leaves the room screaming her head off and goes out into the middle of the Red Sea. Now, Adam goes to God and says, what kind of girl is this? Come on. And so God sends 3 of his angels to go get her. And she says to them, no. And then God goes to her and says, I want you to go back to Adam. And she negotiates with God to get her freedom. And I always found this so fascinating. And this is why, the next girl who was going to hang out with Adam ended up being Eve, who was actually created from the rib of Adam. Like, that's the whole point. So that whomever it is that's going to be for Adam next isn't going to be somebody who has such an awareness of their own divinity, such an awareness that the breath of the divine is what they are. It's what they breathe. That maybe that next girl won't be as rebellious, if she's all hopped up on this idea that she's divine. I find this symbolism so inspiring and so fascinating as well, because in many ways, when we look at our relationship with the universe, it is to know ourselves. That's really it. I had an incredible experience this past summer. Again, for those of you who've watched me for a while, you might know I was on bed rest over the summer. It was brutal. It was really, really hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. And I think that's saying a lot considering my life. But it was so difficult to just have to sit and see what comes up. And it was confronting all of these fears and all of the insecurities and my own sense of vulnerability in a million and one ways. It was an awareness of love and what love actually is there for me, and so much more. It was a powerful part of my journey, and I feel better for it as a result. I would never want to go through that again, universe, so I don't need that again, but I do see how I changed when I had no choice but to be with me, to face myself, to be in isolation. Something within me changed quite profoundly, and I continue to make sense of it. And one of the most important things to occur was a moment when I had to sort of stop and say, okay, if I am going to be in fear, then what does that say about my relationship with soul? What does that say about my relationship with the divine? And I remember feeling overcome with this awareness that, no, everything is good for me. And whatever happens, I'm going to be okay because I am supported by a wise and loving universe. And I'm going to trust that. And that was a huge turning point for me. It is a turning point that I still have to remind myself of. Of course, I'm human, right? I'll have my moments of doubts or insecurities or questioning, but that awareness, that conviction that, no, my relationship with higher power, with divine, with the universe says that it's all part of moving me towards greater love and greater wisdom, all of it. And that my relationship with the divine is what this is really about. And I've thought about that so often because it really helped me to realize how much of the things that have concerned me or stressed me or caused sadness or caused yearning or caused disappointment or even caused anger as well, ultimately, they were not about a person, place, thing, or situation. Ultimately, they were about my relationship with the universe. That's what it's really about. It's not about breaking up with a dude. It's about my relationship with the universe. That's what it is. It's not a relationship with a person, place, thing, or situation. There is so much freedom in remembering that. There is such a lightness, and that allows us to do so much more. The simple remembrance, but also, I think that's also part of the promise that we're making to ourselves as a collective right now, as part of our individual journeys. Because I know it can feel, and I see it online, and I see people reaching out, that they feel that there's a lot of scary things going on in the world. And yes, the world is filled with things to be scared of. I know, but at the same time, I know that sometimes we need to have those things that create pain in order to become more adamantly committed to a pathway of love and wisdom. It is the contrast itself that awakens us to our power to love and to be adamant in that relationship with the universe that says, no, you want to be part of, I want to be part of amplifying love and wisdom in the world. That is the gift now, even when it's hard. And I think that with this North Node activation of Mercury, it is part of the time that we are in to awaken this remembrance, to awaken this knowing that ultimately so much of the things that distress us, so many things in the world can be healed when we have faith and we're able to, or at least willing to, operate from a place of faith. You know, it was Carl Jung who believed and who said that the most resilient people he came across in his many decades of psychoanalysis, the most resilient were those who had some kind of faith, something to believe in, some sense of being connected to something greater than themselves, a higher power, however they defined it. It was those people who were able to make the most of trying times. And every life is filled with challenge and trying times, but it's also filled with tremendous potential to know love more deeply, to know the self more deeply, to know the divine more deeply. And I think we're going to see a lot of that smack in the middle and at the start of this week, because of that North Node activation beginning a powerful soul alignment for the collective and many of us individually. But the fact that Mercury immediately moves to connect with Neptune, I mean, this is just seeing the mystery play out. This is having absolute faith, for better or not, because sometimes faith that doesn't question itself isn't healthy. When it questions itself, it's stronger. But I think we're about due for a moment of bliss. And I think that's part of what is going to likely show itself to us, especially this week. Now, if all of this wasn't enough, as we start the week, we also get the sun speaking in a conversation of tension with Jupiter. I always define this as over-optimism, over the top, going overboard. And consider the sky as we start this week, right? With Mercury, North Node, then Mercury, Neptune, and to top it off, an energy of just going way too far. Well, you can see here that as we start the week, well, some of us might be way overindulgent, and sometimes overconfidence isn't a bad thing. But when we are having an experience of bliss, or its opposite, right? The other side of the coin, which is disillusionment. When we are in the midst of those experiences, it is sometimes hard to maintain balance. But also, remember, for every high, there's a low. And when we allow ourselves to go into that very blissful place and to be carried along in it, that's a lovely place to be in. That pink cloud, it is addictive. Some people chase it, but there's nothing like being able to know that you can have that bliss while being more in the middle, that you don't have to lose yourself to find yourself, but to know yourself is all of it together. To know yourself means that you get the bliss, but don't necessarily have to have the losses feel like such a roller coaster, because that's part of what might show up for some of us out there. There's this roller coaster of energy there. So if it is that you know you're a sensitive soul and that you need to be mindful of that, then this is where you want to amp up your self-care as soon as we start this week, whatever it is for you that you do. You know, I always think that the foundation to any spiritual practice is exemplified in an acronym called HALT, and it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You have to address these before you're going to be able to appreciate all the love and wisdom around you. So if you're hungry, eat. If you're angry, well, what do you do to resolve your anger? A lot of people talk it out with somebody, right? Some people exercise or go for a walk. A lot can be said by looking at your Mars sign and house placement, but whatever that is for you, go do that to resolve anger. If you're lonely, be around other people. There are a million and one ways to be around other people, and you would really be amazed how many people want to have an experience of sharing love. Right? Just to have a moment. So many of us want that. And when you realize that, you look around and you realize how the world is so filled with love. It's actually quite mind-blowing. And if you're tired, rest. If you're tired, make sure you're getting your sleep or your downtime, whatever rest is for you, whatever you're called for on that inner level, to have the awareness to make sure that these foundational levels are addressed allows you to then be able to connect with soul and spirit and see love and wisdom that much more easily and that much more readily. Once Mercury changes signs on Monday, moving into the sign of Aries, that's when we start feeling things change up. We feel a lot more empowered. A part of the reason is that immediately as Mercury changes signs, it moves to align in harmony with Pluto. Now that connection with Pluto perfects on Wednesday, and that beautiful alignment is one of focus. It's being able to tap into our power of harnessing our mind. The mind is a tool. Who you actually are, who we actually are individually and collectively is soul. But the mind is there to serve us. And sometimes in its sense of chaos, it actually is serving us in ways we don't always appreciate. But what's remarkable about this energy is we're able to see how we can actually tap into the power of our mind. Consider this as well, and I think I've been saying this each week for the last couple of weeks, but we are in this time where we've got all these planets kind of moving back and forth between Pisces into Aries and then back into Pisces again. And I think this speaks very powerfully to the shift of humanity that we are in right now. And the fact that as soon as Mercury changes sign, steps into the energy of Aries, which is all about new beginnings, whereas Pisces is about completion and understanding more of what's happening and connecting more to soul. The energy of Aries is very focused. It is one of individual power. It is one of harnessing the free will. And it is about fighting for something. Now, that can be a spiritual warrior energy that comes, but it's about being more fierce and more determined in your willingness and your ability to live that much more fully and to direct the mind so that it serves the passion of the soul is part of a skill that I think a lot of us are going to be harnessing as we step into this week. So we start the week with that dip and a lot of emotion, and then it gives way to, wait a minute, no, this is what I'm focusing in on. This is what I'm honing in on. This is what matters. And in doing that, we start to get the gifts of this time. We start to see how, whether it's the chaos, whether it's the uncertainty, whether it's the confusion that we begin the week with, it's all part of the setup to get us to the place of empowerment. And the energy of empowerment continues to Saturday as well, because we end the week with the sun speaking in supreme harmony with Mars. I love this energy for us, I have to say. I love this because this is about feeling energized and ready to go and feeling excited about ourselves and excited about life. What beautiful energy to tap into. Now, consider that Mars is going forward, right? Recently went direct, is in the energy of Cancer, slowly starting to gain traction more and more as the days and the weeks go on. And then here we get this sweet spot of an energy of Mars speaking in supreme harmony with the sun. And the sun, of course, magnifies, illuminates that much more, whatever it is that it touches. These two together, it's like they encourage each other's heat. They encourage the passion of this time and of this moment. And it is the sun that reminds us of the core of who we are, but also the sun is about seeing things in yourself that you really like. Bringing forward those things that help you to feel like you're in touch with something within you that helps you to feel like more you. And when we get that trine of Mars, I think in one way, a lot of the wisdom of the Mars retrograde season starts to make itself known more. It starts to be more apparent. It starts to be more obvious. In moments when we get major retrogrades like we've been having, that we are going to be having, like with Mars, for example, there were moments there that felt really tough. But all of it is leading us to understand ourselves, our light, our power, our connectivity to ourselves, to the universe, and so much more, that much more. And I think the fruits of whatever might have felt uncertain or tiring or challenging with the Mars retrograde, well, now, whatever we went through, we see how it was part of the setup to get us to this point where we feel stronger and more sure about ourselves. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. I'm going to say I love Mercury meeting the North Node. I think that is a very big and beautiful energy. But I also am very encouraged by the fact that we end the week with that beautiful Sun trine Mars. It is enlivening. It is the spirit of life itself. But both the Sun and Mars are in water signs, which means that the emotions are the pathway to life. The emotions are the pathway to empowerment. And whether we find that connection through listening to ourselves, right? Moments at the beginning of the week that say, practice self-care, be diligent with it. Those are moments that ultimately fuel self-awareness, and that fuels self-respect. Now, the fruits of that, I think, start to show to us at the end of the week with that beautiful trine of the Sun and Mars. Whatever it was that we were diligent with and working through, this is the payoff. This is the reward of us feeling more fully in the true brilliance, the illumination of some core part of who we are, which is ultimately soul. And it is in the remembrance of soul that we are made that much more powerful. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares with thumbs ups. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for as low as just $3 a month with Choose Your Membership Rate. Now, higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Venus retrograde special horoscopes are now up in the Superstar space and available for download on my website, NadiyaShah.com. Thank you so much for your love and support for my work, and really for your enthusiasm as well. I'm so glad I was able to get them out before Venus officially went retro, but these specials do cover the period between mid-January right to the middle of May. So we're going to just before the shadow even began, to the retrograde and walking that whole journey, and with Venus direct. And so each video, I think the shortest one is like 25 minutes. The longest one was like 45 minutes. So a lot depends on your sign and what came forward as I was creating the video. But regardless, I hope you find it jam-packed with information and insight that's meaningful to you, and that you love the videos. I always hope that you love the videos, or anything that you get from me is part of the support that you give to my work. So have a look at that. Those links are below. And if you want a more personal look, consultations, I've started doing consultations again. My schedule is kind of limited. I mean, you guys know I do a lot of different things, so I do have to limit my schedule. But what's great is that now there's this whole automated system that's up. I'm so grateful for that. A team member fixed that. And basically you can look at my calendar, you can book exactly the slot that you want based on my calendar. Then you're directed to a form, and you fill out that form with all your birth data and other info you want me to have in advance. And then you make your payment, and then you are automatically sent a Zoom link. So everything is set. Like, you don't have to follow up with us. We don't have to follow up with you. There's no back and forth. Everything is there, and you show up in my calendar. When I wake up and I go look at my phone, there you are in my calendar, because my calendar is connected to Zoom and everything. So it's very, very lovely and exciting to see how many people have enthusiasm for my work. Thank you so much for that. I've personally found it to be an amazing experience, nothing less than that. Of course, when I do a consultation, I'm there in service of you. The time is whatever you want it to be. Some people just want to be quiet and they just want me to talk. Other people want to have a conversation. They want to have a back and forth. And it has awakened something in me to be of service to you in that personal way. And I'm just so grateful for that. So thank you. But again, when we're actually in consultation, you don't have to worry. I'm not there for like me telling you about me. I'm there in service of you. And the time is whatever it is that you'd like it to be. I'm super happy to look at charts and all of that. And I try to be prepared in advance to make sure that all those charts are ready and so on. So please have a look. See what you think, and if it feels right for you, you can book that now. If it is that you'd like something different, maybe you're considering more something that's in alignment with what you want to pay, there's other options there as well. And those include a reading with my dear friend, Andy of Wise Ass Astrology. Yes, you can book readings from him through my website. He's got his own little system there, so you don't have to pay right away, but you do get to choose your consultation rate. What? You get to choose your consultation rate with Andy, as low as just $50. And his readings, I think we schedule 90 minutes, but he always does at least 90 minutes. I mean, he will talk and talk and talk about your chart. And he's just so brilliant. He's somebody who I learn more about my chart through speaking to him. And I'm super excited because right now I am traveling and I'm going to be meeting up with Andy in a few weeks' time. So I'm transiting through Panama City right now. I'm on my way to El Salvador, which I'm super excited about. And then from there, I'm going to Guatemala. And then Guatemala will be 50 countries. So I did it. I did it. And then once I've done that, I will head to Mexico City for a full month, starting in the middle of March. And I'm so excited about that because I have so many friends there and I'm excited about meeting them. And Andy is going to come out there too. Andy's going to be there the first week of April. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with him. We hang out somewhere in the world at least once or twice a year. And so this time we will do it in Mexico City. I've already said to him that we got to record together. So I'll try to make that happen as well. So yes, special horoscopes. You can get those in the superstar space on my website. You can look into consultations with me or with Andy, depending on what you are hoping for, going for. All of that is there under the consultations tab. And of course, you can also connect with me if you want to meet somewhere where I am. If you happen to be in El Salvador, Guatemala, or in Mexico City, super happy to meet friends and fans when I'm on the road, whether it's an in-person consultation or just a coffee or just a hug. I love meeting friends and fans when I'm out there. So just thank you. Thank you for your trust. Whatever part of your journey I play, I'm so grateful for it. My heart is full. Thank you. Synchronicity University has some absolutely incredible programs that are underway now. They have already started, but are going to kick into high gear once we get into this coming week. And we have brilliant teachers, the one and only Gemini Brett. He is a world-renowned astrologer. He's coming to Synchronicity University teaching on the houses in astrology. Myself, I'm doing my own course, and it's all about astrology and travel and all the different techniques we use where it comes to understanding where to be, when to travel, when you will travel, what it's going to be like in certain locations. We're going to be looking at a variety of techniques as part of that 5-week journey, which starts in the next few days. My dear friend URSULA STOCKDER is going to be teaching all about art and astrology to awaken the artist within through the power and the symbolism of astrology. She's the perfect person to teach that. And of course, we have a jam-packed speaker series as well, which has already begun with my dear friend from Zan's Astrology, Attila, and he just taught on the dwarf planets. That'll be available for instant download coming up in the next couple of days. And then we've got all these amazing other people who are going to be teaching: Yuridia Robles, Kapil from Bliss Numero. Cynthia Rose is going to show you how to utilize personal planets, and Scott Hogan is teaching the cards of truth, a whole other way to look at your playing card deck. So you can see here, we've got incredible programs that are already underway or are starting now in the next few days. All those links are below. At the very beginning of this week, it's very possible that some of those choose your tuition rate links are still up, so you might be able to just get in there. But by Monday or late Monday, they'll likely be taken down. So if you can and you'd like that discounted rate, you might be able to get in, or you can just purchase individual classes or pay the regular rate, which is normally $35 a class. So check it out. I look forward to seeing you in class. I'm super excited about teaching soon and all these amazing teachers we have coming up at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are below. Just a note for the superstars out there, I usually try to have the weekly YouTube video and the superstar horoscopes ready right around the same time. However, because of having to finish the Venus retrograde special horoscopes, the monthly horoscopes, it all added up to mean, I'm so sorry, not being able to complete the superstar horoscopes yet. And so this video is publishing on Saturday night / Sunday morning, and these superstar horoscopes I'm hoping will be up by Sunday night or Monday morning. So they'll be a day late or so, and I'm so sorry about that. I so appreciate each and every one of you out there, whether you're watching on YouTube, but of course the superstars as well, for wanting even more insights from me. So just thank you guys so very much, and be on the lookout for those superstar horoscopes to publish about a day after these YouTube videos are. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. Stay tuned for short horoscopes coming up right now. And again, so grateful, sending you big hugs. Thank you for your trust. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. This Mercury retrograde season is set to be a really important part of this larger move that we have taking place for the collective and as part of our individual journeys as well. And that is between one area of life to another, between Pisces and Aries. This is where massive shifts are underway this year. Well, it is this Mercury retrograde season that's going to help us to make the most of it. Well, it is this Mercury retrograde season that's going to help us to make sense of it. It's going to help us to understand intellectually, to work out what ideas are presenting themselves to us, so that we can find ways to communicate, to express, and ultimately to allow an understanding to sink in, so that we make the most of these powerful transitions that we are in the midst of now, collectively and as part of your own individual journeys. It is going to be on the 1st or 2nd of March, depending on where you are on the planet, that Mercury steps into shadow and immediately is hand in hand with the North Node as Mercury steps into shadow, and then also connects with Neptune as well. So right out of the gate, there's this sense of karmicness to whatever might be happening now, but it's also a seed moment. It's the very beginning of us having a soul level understanding of just what it is we're moving towards, and moving towards whatever it is that we can also carry spirit to, knowing that ultimately the energy is moving in directions of empowerment, of feeling lit up, of feeling a renewed sense of enthusiasm that maybe many of us haven't appreciated in a while. And so one area of life, dreamy, that's what we start this week. And then the area of life that gets so lit up starting on Monday is the energy of Aries, where later this month Neptune will move into later this year. Saturn will move into. We're having a Venus retrograde in full effect that's also going back and forth between these two areas of life as well. And so what area of life this week are you likely to experience a seed moment? That it becomes that much more important to pay attention, because sometimes those beginnings can be very subtle, but ultimately can allow a pathway for you to move towards greater love, greater wisdom, but also karmic blessings of all kinds, because that's what happens when the North Node is activated. It is as if a doorway opens from which new people, places, things, situations enter, which represent karmic blessings. That's what's on offer now, but it's ultimately also part of how the focus is going to change. And it is, as Mercury changes signs, that we'll come to understand how to take an awareness of, or the beginning of, certain karmic contracts and run with it, find enthusiasm within it. Well, how this speaks to you depends on your sun, moon, and rising sign. Take all three into consideration and then synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And for lots more horoscopes, of course, check out my YouTube channel, Nadiya Shah, and the Superstar horoscopes over at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, Mercury moving from the sign just before yours and into your sign is like you really awakening from a space of sleep and into some hyper awareness of yourself. It's like the dream space is especially vivid and showing you how new beginnings can come hand in hand with appreciating your connection to source. And then you get lit up. You feel more brilliant than you have in a while. It becomes that much easier to learn, but also to express yourself, to share your truth more unabashedly. Taurus, friendship, group endeavors, these are where some of the more powerful soul contracts and karmic contracts exist. And new people entering now can be part of moving you towards greater love and greater wisdom. Once Mercury changes signs, well, that's when Mercury moves into a part of the sky for you that has to do with what's happening on levels of soul, psyche, and spirit. This is where you just might start feeling just downright prophetic. It feels like there's all this inspiration. You feel more plugged into source, more aware of and available to universal love that you're able to bring forward in just about every area of life. Gemini, your ruling planet, will meet the North Node at the top of your sky, having to do with career and life purpose. This is the very beginning of new pathways that could be opening up for you. New connections you make now may open up greater opportunity to you, especially in the fullness of time, though those initial meetings might be decidedly subtle. For all that, once Mercury changes signs, the other part of the sky, that part of this Mercury retrograde season is set to take place in, has to do with friendships and group alliances. Random reintroductions, reconnections with friends, some of whom you might have lost touch with long ago, and very much synchronistically, like in happenstance, you're just walking along in a totally other city, the last place where you expected to run into somebody and have a spontaneous reunion. Well, that's exactly where they are, and it's who you least expected. Cancer, the North Node and Mercury will meet in a part of the sky for you that is decidedly worldly. It has to do with understanding your place in the world, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, and higher learning here. Remember, this is about new beginnings, seeds being planted, and where you never expected to actually feel like you wanted to go travel or actually think that you want to go back and get a higher degree. Well, that possibility starts to awaken for you now. For all that, once Mercury changes signs, moves into the top of your sky, get ready for a renewed sense of ambition and focus, a determination and enthusiasm for where it is that you're going in a higher sense. And this could be reconnecting with bosses, people in positions of authority, or opportunities you thought were gone. Well, they just might come back around as part of a characteristic of this larger Mercury retrograde season that's going to take us all the way to the middle of April. Leo, profound change, truth, transformation, and wealth. These are the seeds being planted now. You could meet people where it feels like a profound or transformative experience, moment, or connection. But this is also about being able to access resources, where wealth might come from. This could be the very beginning seed moment of greater wealth than you've known before. Once Mercury changes signs, well, that is a very worldly part of your sky. You might find yourself having random interactions with previous professors or people whom you saw as mentors at one time. This can also be surprise reunions with people that you interacted with in institutes of higher learning, or when you least expected it, you get a chance to go back to revisit a place far away and you didn't even know how much you missed it till you got there. Virgo, partnership and love. This is where the very beginnings lie. Whether it is that you are in an established bond and this is the start of a new understanding and renewed connection and the seed that allows a stronger love to take place, or you meeting someone brand spanking new that ends up being a part of someone that really shows you something about what love is meant to be for you. Well, those beginnings become that much more possible as we start this week. For all that, though, once Mercury changes signs, moves into a wealth and intimacy part of your sky, it's about being more vulnerable with yourself and with others, working towards and having renewed opportunity to find deeper understanding towards meaningful change. And also, by happenstance, you just might be able to access more funding, higher credit limits, and scholarships or benefits you qualify for. Well, they can fall into place very quickly. Libra, your work situation, work opportunities, clients, customers, coworkers, those new connections that are rooted in what you've well established do well, well, those can open up for you now. But remember, it may not be obvious right away. You meet somebody rather casually, while in the fullness of time, they may end up being a very good client or opening up work-related opportunities for you. For all that, once it is that we have Mercury changing signs into your opposite sign, this brings a focus on love, whether reconnecting with loves from the past or whether it is new bonds that are very much like people that you knew long ago. Or maybe it is that you get a chance to talk out and finally resolve matters that have been pushed under the rug in an established bond. Well, your partner or potential partner is going to take on greater focus. Scorpio, Mercury is meeting the North Node in a part of the sky that has to do with the romance, flirtation, what the heart wants in every area of life. Getting your flirt on could be an opening on a level of soul and can provide a moment, a seed that ultimately does allow greater love to rush in, whether or not it's with that specific person. But this can also be a doorway opening, which will allow greater opportunities in the context of sharing your creativity as well. Now, once Mercury changes signs, well, that is when Mercury moves into a part of the sky having to do with your daily life, your clients, customers, coworkers, and random run-ins with one of these people or more than one that you knew way back in the day could happen in the most unexpected places. But this can also be work opportunities you thought were gone, projects you thought were not going to be for you coming back around. But this can also be a renewed interest in and strengthening of your health-related habits. Sagittarius, home, the past, your living situation, your family of origin. It's like new pathways, but it's based in what's well rooted or where you want to be well rooted. So whether that is the potential to move, to be in a new home, or it is the potential to go home, to be home more, well, those opportunities can feel like they start to get some sense of possibility for you now. Maybe people you knew way back in the day from your childhood reemerge. Once Mercury changes signs, romance, flirtation, and fun and happiness, well, this starts to be that much more important. And in particular, running into lovers from the past, not relationship people, but people where maybe there was a fling, maybe there was a bit of dating. Well, yeah, those types of people, they could just present themselves to you in the most unexpected way in the weeks ahead. Capricorn, the North Node and Mercury are meeting in a part of the sky that has to do with communication, but also your siblings, cousins, and neighbors. And so this represents a chance to get to know these particular people more deeply, or maybe where it is there hasn't been a lot of contact with some of these people, out of nowhere, through happenstance, you find some of those connections. It is also these people who might be part of opening up greater opportunity for you in unexpected ways. Going forward from here, when you least expected it, they are the ones that point the way to where greater blessings might be for you. Once Mercury changes signs, the other part of the sky that is lit up with Mercury retrograde has to do with what's happening at the foundation of your chart. Home, the past, the living situation, your family of origin, your parents in particular. Lots of surprise reunions, but this is also a chance to have another look at your past, to reconcile with it and find power that you previously just didn't know. Once Mercury changes signs, well, Mercury moving into the foundation of your chart will help you to reconnect with people from your childhood, but also to see the past very differently, more lovingly as well. Aquarius, Mercury goes into shadow in a financial part of your sky, having to do with money you earn, money you spend, self-love, self-esteem, and whether it is new ideas or new pathways of revenues that open up for you. Ultimately, this is about putting you on a pathway towards greater prosperity than you've known before. And someone you meet now very casually could be a part of you generating more income, or even outside of money, maximizing self-love for you in a key way. Once Mercury changes signs, moves into a mind-oriented part of the sky for you, but it's also about siblings, cousins, and neighbors. So whether it is a renewed interest in things that maybe you let go a while ago, reading certain books out of nowhere, they present themselves to you that you used to love back in the day, or a sibling, cousin, neighbor, opening up a sense of new ideas, well, all of that becomes possible now. Pisces, having the North Node and Mercury meet in your sign is the illumination of some truth about you, some insight, some understanding about who you are, what matters to you most and first. And it could be now that the seeds are planted for you to find brand new ways of self-identification that end up being deeply meaningful. Once Mercury changes signs as part of this larger Mercury retrograde season, well, it becomes about exploring and considering how you've gone about making money, what you've done, what's worth doing, what isn't, and maybe what it is you could return to generate income for yourself. Now, this could also be very powerful for affirming and deeply rooting healthy self-love in the process. Thank you for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.